Welcome to the Times of Industry show. I have a phenomenal interview for everyone today. This is Monday, what is it, November 9th? And so much has happened today. Literally, so much has happened today. I'm so glad that I'm like 8 hours from Central. So when I woke up, America was sleeping. I got to see everything that's happening, and then boom, midday. My God, Pfizer came out, said 90% of our vaccines work. It turns out it's on about like 90 people or something, something nonsense, nothing too crazy. But they have like 44,000 volunteers. So we'll see how this filters out. My guest today, a brilliant person. I love this guy. Always great to have him on the call. His views up to Harry Dent. HarryDent.com. It's a free financial newsletter. It goes out weekly. And Harry, do you have perhaps one of your recent books with you? Like Zero Hour. It's a great book.
Yeah. Zero Hour.
Okay. Well, Zero Hour. We are in the 0 hour, so let's talk. First of all, welcome to the show.
What's that?
Welcome to the show.
Oh yeah. Great to be back.
Yeah. You're in Puerto Rico?
Yes, I am in Puerto Rico watching the Blue-Red War, #1, like the Civil War in the U.S., and the old versus young, the baby boomers versus the millennials. There are a lot of tensions going on here, more than just the economy, which my demographic and other indicators will predict. So this is the most interesting time to me.
Let's call them the experienced. Let's not call them old. Maybe some people get offended. But Harry, let's start with something that's like insane on everybody's minds. You have a very contested elections. I personally remember in 2000 that Jeb Bush and everything that happened under his watch in Florida. You're a Florida resident, weren't you?
Yes.
Yes. So I'm not mistaken. But anyways, that took like 34 days to solve. So we're in the early stages of this. You have a lot of news and rumors and allegations and whatnot circling around on what. Let me just give you people a quick picture, and then I'll give you the floor. I don't want to take too much of the time. We have Rudy Giuliani, a very prominent lawyer, a lawyer that took down very important people in New York in his days, his claim to fame, and then it got him to be mayor of New York City during 9/11, actually. And he's Trump's personal lawyer. He's preparing a potential 10 lawsuits, one of them in Pennsylvania, where he believes that there is a 700 to 800,000 voter swing of like fraud and backdating and dead people voting and whatnot. He's talking about Michigan. He's talking about Nevada, Arizona, like all the swing states. This Dominion software is in the pipeline with a former chief of staff of Pelosi being a key executive. So a lot of things are surfacing. Your thoughts? Voter fraud? Yes, no, little bit, meaningful. What's happening here? Are you thinking that something can happen? Because the markets don't think that something is happening. I'm going to mute myself.
Yeah, I'm more with the markets, but I mean, with more mail-in votes because of COVID, and the Democrats encouraged that, and Trump encouraged people to go and vote in person. That's the reason the election results favored Trump at first, but they count the mail-in votes later, and all of a sudden, oh my God, he lost Pennsylvania, he lost Michigan, and holy crap. I mean, even I didn't think I was somebody saying before the election that Trump had a much bigger chance than the polls said. He was going to lose by 10%.
Sure.
So
because people don't say the polls, they're like, yeah, I'm a Trump supporter. They may even say like, I'm Biden, leave me alone.
Yeah, but the way it turned out is that, he looked like he was going to win early on, and then it shifted to Biden. And I told people before, I thought Trump had a good shot, but I still said if he put a gun to my head, it's Biden because the polls were so strong.
Okay.
So that's just part of the politics and stuff of this whole thing. But I do not see, because now I'm looking at the Electoral College and I'm seeing 306 versus 232. It's pretty hard to say, oh, we do some recounts and a little bit of fraud here and there. Oh, that can make up the difference. Now, that's not proven yet, but I think that's the likely outcome. If it would have been, which I thought at one time, 270 to 268, oh my God, this would be wide open, and any legal challenge could work. So I think Trump is desperate here. But I've always said I would never rule him out, even at this stage. But I think it's hard to win this at this point because the electoral college was his advantage because it favors rural areas, just like the Senate does.
Okay.
Small states get 2 senators like everybody else. It favors him, and he's still losing despite that. I think he's done. I also, Lior, told people from the beginning, I thought Trump would have been better to put his agenda out by starting his own TV network. And he only didn't do that when he got in office because he didn't want to compete with Rush Limbaugh, which is his biggest supporter, like 25, 30 million people daily. I think people say, oh, Trump's going to disappear. No, I think he can be stronger in his position without being president, where you have all these, oh, you got to have good decorum, you got to be polite, whatever. No, he can be like Rush Limbaugh. And I hate to say it, I agree with some conservative values. I came from a conservative family. My father was the guy that got Nixon elected. He was the
That's breaking news.
Yeah, he got Nixon elected against the grain by winning the same type of all-star wrestling fans and people that Trump did.
Your father was a politician?
Huh?
Your father was a politician or a campaign manager? What?
Yeah, no, Harry S. Dent Sr. He was the political consultant to Nixon who first convinced him to run. Nixon was not going to run because George Wallace was going to run as a third-party candidate, which would hurt the Republican Party. So Nixon had decided, I won't run. I can't win. My father said, no, I grew up with Strom Thurmond, the most conservative senator ever. I'll get him to go say a vote for Humphrey, a vote for Wallace is a vote for Humphrey. And that's how Nixon won the election.
Wow, Harry.
And my father helped build the Republican Party. We've had Republican dominance ever since with, Carter here and then Clinton, but it's been a Republican era until the 2008 downturn. Now, I've been predicting, and I know you don't like to hear this, that the downturn since 2008 will favor Democrats.
I am not an American nor a Republican. I love what you have to say no matter what.
Right. And Obama got in, but then Trump sneaked in. The bubble from the Federal Reserve and central banks allowed Trump to sneak in to a good stock market and say we can make America great again when it was failing. And you know what? He didn't make that big a difference, and it's not his fault. This slow economy and this downturn that I'm telling you, the first quarter, second quarter next year are going to disappoint everybody. I don't care what stimulus, what central bank, we have done this thing to the end of the rope here. And things keep weakening no matter what. And they're like the stock market's up 5% today. Like, oh, we got a vaccine. You know how long the vaccine is going to take to get around? And 30% Trump voters won't take it anyway, and on and on and on. And we got 20% zombie companies, public companies not paying their debt. And small businesses have been going under increasingly for years and years and now more. We don't get back to even here, Lior. There's no possible way, and the stock market's acting like it is because the stock market's on crack. Federal Reserve, central banks put money into financial assets. It dries up stocks the most, and commodities, and real estate, and bonds, all these things, but stocks the most. And there was a big study recently, I forgot, it might have been UBS or somebody said, what would the stock market be without QE? 50% lower. And in a downturn, which I'm predicting, it'll be 70, 80, 90% lower. You buy stocks here, you're an idiot. Although I'm predicting in my newsletter today, I predicted this rise up to 36.60. I said in my November newsletter plus, and I think now that it's gone this fast, it may go higher. But I'm telling you, this stock market's days are done. And if you don't think so, you're gambling with your life savings.
Well, can I ask you something? First of all, I see that I see Abe Lincoln in the back there. That's a
Yeah.
cartoon.
That's Abe Lincoln on acid, like the market's on crack today.
Okay.
It's a liberal painting of Abe Lincoln.
Okay. Now, I want to ask you because I didn't know this about your dad, but if he was close to Nixon, was he there on in that time that I know it's off topic, but kind of in topic? Was he there when Nixon took the world off of the gold standard? Was he part of his inner clique somewhere in there?
Yeah.
What did he tell him?
Inner circle. He had an office in the White House, and you know what his best luck was? Right before the whole Watergate thing, Ehrlichman and Haldeman kicked him out of the White House because he wouldn't play their political games. I mean, they were like the Luftwaffe, the Hitler's hitmen sort of thing for Nixon.
Okay.
He wouldn't play the game. He got put into an office outside of the White House. And so when all the indictments came down, he was the only one of the few guys in the inner circle that did not go to jail because he was a Boy Scout.
Wow. And what did he say about gold? What did he say when Nixon did that move?
Oh, well, I mean, he was a big Nixon fan. I mean, he didn't promote him for no reason. He was embarrassed by Watergate, and he did admit, Nixon just could have been more. He shouldn't have been tricky dick. He should have been more forthcoming right away, and it wouldn't have been that bad. It was the fact that he lied about it. Same thing that got Clinton impeached. He lied about a stupid thing, like an affair and stuff, okay? It's lying about it that got my father, but he really liked Nixon, and it was the worst thing in his career. I mean, he actually went into religious research after that. It really changed his career to say, wow, I helped the greatest guy in history, I thought, get elected, and then it didn't work out. So that was really interesting.
It changed him.
I never went into politics after that. I got into investment in cycles when I met my first father-in-law, and he was an independent investor that was a really leading edge investor, and he had all these newsletters back then. This was the late 70s, in gold bugs, and gold bugs understood cycles, and they looked at debt cycles and stuff, and I'm like, that's the first time in my life I realized, because I had no idea what I wanted to do. I was smart, but I had no idea.
It's cycles.
I like these cycle things.
Yeah.
So that's how I got into what I do. I'm telling you, Leora, nobody has what I have in cycles, because I've spent now 30 years testing and building. Cycles are not complicated, but you have to decide which cycles are important for any phenomena like the economy. And I've found 3 or 4 cycles that will tell you today what the economy would be like over the rest of your lifetime, not short term, but I'm telling you, it's that good, but it took me 30 years to do that.
Well, let me ask you something. We have gold today down $100, and silver obviously down over $1. I want to ask you, obviously, I assume you share my opinion that the vaccine news has caused many traders that hedged precious metals as a way to hedge lockdowns and whatnot. Do you feel like gold's all-time high in August 5th of 2089 intraday or 2076 at the close, if I'm not mistaken? Was it the cycle high here, or are we going higher?
No, I don't think that was the high. It had to break above the 1980 level to go to this new high, and that it wasn't the all-time high. There was resistance. It tested that level for a whole year. Okay, back in like 2011, 12 or something. So that was the key break, and it went to a new high. I have always had a target. And again, I say gold is not the safe haven in this crisis, unlike this 1970s long downturn and recession, because that was an inflationary crisis. This is a deflationary crisis.
Interesting. So what is the safe haven?
How can central banks print $25 trillion and then every time we have a recession print exponentially more and we still don't get any inflation? It's because we're in a deflationary era.
So what is the perfect hedge?
Well, okay. The hedge, and nobody's going to like this, the opposite of what Peter Schiff, which I'm debating in Australia a week or so from now, he'd say you got to be short currencies like the US dollar and long gold. No, no. Gold is an inflationary hedge. Gold goes down. I think gold, I'll tell you real clearly, gold first. Gold goes up in the early stages of a crisis because gold like crisis, and they think they're going to print more money. It did that in early 2008 when stocks had already peaked and then crashed in later 2008 when it set in. In the recent short crash, February to March, gold went up in the first week or two and then went down in the last few weeks, but it didn't go down as much as other things. So I see gold going up to 2,200. Let me tell you why that is. If you draw a trend line through all the major 30-year commodity cycle tops and gold, 1980 and 2011, and project it into this time frame, 2,200. That's the key resistance area. Now, that resistance area is so strong long-term that I think, first of all, gold can't refuse to test it. Even though you could argue now that gold just went down, 5% or whatever today, no, I think gold's going to go up and ring that bell because it's so compelling. And then I think that's it. And I think stocks will peak first in the next couple of weeks. I think this is maybe the final rally, but gold, like in the past, will rally into later this year, early next year, in the early stages, because they're going to see that crisis again. There's going to be a little late stage inflation from the past growth, and then it's going to go down when it realizes, oh no, like in mid to late 2008. No, this is not a recession. This is a, oh, holy crap, downturn, a
Okay.
depression. Gold does not like deflation. No financial investments like inflation, not stocks, not most bonds, corporate bonds, not commodities. Nobody likes deflation except for the highest quality treasury bonds. Okay. 30, my number one pick to buy ahead, 30-year, not 10-year, 30-year treasury bonds at a 1.6 to 1.8 yield versus 10-year at like a 0.8 to 0.9 yield. Okay, I want the 30-year treasury bonds because they make the deflation play. They're the safe haven in the US dollar. You know who did best in the 2008, what they call globally the GFC, the Great Financial Crisis? The US dollar. Exactly what Peter Schiff and Goldbug say, oh, the dollar's going to crash. And I'm like, really? You know who's printed more money compared to their GDP? US, 33%. Europe, ECB, 53%. Japan, 126%. We're the best house in a bad neighborhood. Currencies do not trade like stocks on fundamental values. They trade compared to other currencies because that's how money flows. This thing about the dollar's going to crash and gold's going to go to 5,000 is the worst forecast in history. And I hate to say that because at least the gold bugs, like Peter Schiff, at least recognize you can't create prosperity by endlessly printing money and running up debt, especially zombie debt. 20% of companies can't pay their debt service, public companies, big companies. So I'm like, no, we got a crisis, but it's going to be deflationary. 500, listen to this figure. This is a real figure. Over $500 trillion. Okay, of financial assets globally, which could deflate 50% easily as they did in the 1930s, and 255 trillion in debt that will deleverage and disappear to some degree. Money is going to disappear like the magic that created them, called quantitative freaking easing. The stupidest thing ever done in history. Oh, we have a big downturn. Oh, we'll just print money and pretend like it never happened. No, restructuring debt, refocusing your economies or your companies, workers, everything. Recessions are meant to refocus your economy. They're blocking the greatest resurgence in history, and therefore it's going to be a bigger downturn. And then when the free markets win, because there is no free markets when central banks control everything and decide interest rates. They already took away free markets. Special interests, rich people, already took away democracy. They decide who's going to run or not and who wins or not, because they have so much amplified power from so much BS financial asset power. Here's the thing I tell rich people. They're the stupidest people I see today. Don't confuse brains with a bull market, you dumbass. I'm serious. Richest people, I can talk everyday people out of real estate or stock. They're overvalued. Yeah. Oh, well, yeah. Common sense. I cannot talk rich people out of anything. They've been making money on Bitcoin recently, and New York real estate, and San Francisco real estate, and Miami real estate, in the stock market, and the FANGs. They think it'll never go down because rich people like them will always buy it. No, you're the dumbasses. You're the dumb money in this unique bubble that's been created by central banks, not natural causes. They've blown up all financial assets to offset a downturn they can't stop otherwise.
Okay, so one quick question and one final question. The quick question is this debate, which I assume will be more fun than the presidential debate between you and Mr. Schiff. Is it going to be broadcasted anywhere? Where is it that people can tune into that kind of a friction?
Oh, I have to go to goco.com.au. This is happening in Australia, but we're making it available to everybody in the States. It's the great debate. It's on US time. It's 6 p.m. November 19th, Thursday. It's going to be in the morning, Sydney time in Australia.
You said
go to goco.com.au.
Is that GOCO?
Yeah, no, GOKO. That's good thing you asked that. .com.au. And actually it's probably /great debate. And I'm telling you this, the most popular thing I do is debate Peter Schiff, because we both respect each other, because we both realize you don't get something for nothing, and you can't have endless debt and financial asset bubbles. You can't grow on this crap forever. But he sees the inflationary outcome. Oh, you just overinflate so much, you get hyperinflation. I see no. Most of the great, and I'm telling you, history's on my side here. Most of the great financial crises in developed countries, not in banana republics. Hyperinflation is happened only in banana republics and in Weimar Germany after they lost the war, borrowed overseas to finance it, and then borrowed more for the reparations, and then their currency collapsed because of their bankruptcy, and then they went to hyperinflation. Hyperinflation is not, will not ever be the end result here. I will say that and risk my career over it, because we're in a deflationary era. Like I said earlier, how can you print 25 trillion, 7.3 trillion in the main central banks just in the last several months and still not get any inflation? We're fighting deflation, but deflation will win. It deleverages debt, deleverages bad companies and financial assets. Money comes out of the system and things come back to, oh, an everyday millennial could buy a home at a reasonable price, and they could invest in the stock market for the next 30 years and hope to retire on it. You buy stocks today, you have no chance of making any money for the next 10 years. None, zero. In fact, you're going to lose, without my forecast, just on valuation, 20 to 30% in the next 12 years.
Okay, so one last subject. And it's going to be Bitcoin. I've never bought Bitcoin, never held Bitcoin, never did nothing.
I bought one.
Okay, well, there you go. But I have to say, with Wealth Research Group, with the newsletter, we were one of the, we were pretty early at around $450. This was February of 2017 when we highlighted it. So pretty smoking hot. To see it at 15 or 16,000 as it is today. What do you make of it? Because in the recent months, we've seen many of these people that in 2017 said it, this is nothing. This is computerly generated stuff, blah, blah, blah. We're all against it and have now changed tunes big time. We obviously have seen PayPal which is one of the world's leading companies, get into Bitcoin. So your thoughts on Bitcoin?
Well, you know, AOL was into the .com thing.
That's true.
I compare cryptocurrency, and I tell you, you can't even call it Bitcoin a cryptocurrency. It's blockchain. That is a new financial ledger, digital technology that can be the internet of the financial values, things of all financial values, stocks, financial assets, transaction stuff. I like it. I think long term, it's the internet on about a 17 to 20 year lag. And I track technology cycles on S curves. That's one of the things I've done throughout my whole career.
Wow.
My problem is the .coms were at the same point when they first came out, and they got a huge. AOL was 400 times earnings in early 2000. I mean, like, that was already a sizable company that could not have possibly fulfilled that projection ever, even if we took over Mars. Okay. And started
how much, what's the PE ratio for Tesla right now, by the way?
Well, I don't own that one. It's huge because he's not selling that much, but he does have an image in the electrical area that is making him not look so crazy. And I think he may survive and do well, but that's the point. Tesla's overvalued. Bitcoin and all these things. What are they? You going to buy something at the 7-Eleven with Bitcoin any more than a Krugerrand? No. It's the foundation of something that's real. I compare it to the last big tech bubble, started with broader, internet stuff. I mean, broader personal computer and computing stocks in Microsoft and Apple, all that stuff. Only the last stage did internet come in with huge valuations with no substance. That's blockchain. That's crypto today. They have no substance. There's tons of companies. There's a Bitcoin for pets and nonprofits. I mean, everything you can imagine. There's a Bitcoin. There's a coin for, and they're raising money through ICOs with no regulations because, it's not a security. These are securities. They're trading like securities. They're invested in like securities. So I think that now, I think Bitcoin, I've always looked for one more rise in the first wave. First top late 2013, second one late 2017. The last one would naturally in a 4-year cycle be late 2021. My question is, because of this big downturn I see them as the last of the greatest bubbles. Bitcoin people, and I've talked to 3 or 4 conferences, major conferences, they see themselves as the antithesis to the bubble crash. No, I'm like, no, you're going to crash like the bubble, but then seen to be the long-term solution. Digital currencies through blockchain that can create money from the bottoms up, not the top down. And I think central banks are going to lose all credibility in all of history in the next 2 years because they've blown this economy up, cheated, manipulated it from the top down. I'm looking to blockchain to create the potential for currencies from the bottoms up, but it's not there yet. I think there's one more crash. I think it can make a new high first, maybe even late 2021. But I think by late 2022, cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin will crash like everything else and be down 90% or more. And then I would buy it. Late 2022, we'll look at it at the time, but that would be my forecast today. Bonds, the treasury bonds are going to be the last bubble to burst in the United States because they're the safe haven in US dollars. But late 2022, when stocks and Bitcoin and everything else is on their ass, bonds will be in a bear market for 20 years after that, including treasury bonds, because there'll be rising inflation again long term, and the safe haven. The US will no longer be the safe haven in the world when Asia dominates more than ever in the next boom. So I got a whole different take on things, as you can imagine.
HarryDent.com. It's a free financial newsletter weekly. Tesla, by the way, according at least to Google Finance, is at 863 PE ratio.
That's more than AOL. That's a great indicator.
Yeah,
that's
pretty unique.
It doesn't mean they're going to fail any more than AOL. That's just a crazy valuation.
Yeah. Harry, thank you very much. Enjoy Australia. That's a pretty long flight right there. And please let everyone know how it is to enter Australia, because they're big on COVID, and it will be interesting. So I wish you lots of luck in the debate. And these are pretty interesting times that we live in. Seems like every day the news cycle changes like 10 times. And we shall see. We will air this immediately before it becomes irrelevant, basically. So thank you very much. The book is 0 Hour. And I really appreciate you spending the time with us.
Sure. Enjoyed it.